And so we are on, I think today was 128.
Oh, wow.
So if people choose and so desire, please feel free to go to my Facebook page. And every single day has some sort of whimsy and random. There's lots of videos, lots of content.
There is a lot of fun content. I love the work that you do on your personal Facebook page, and I love the work that you do in general. Now, you and I first met here in Florida. You were performing at the Crosley estate, right? Where you would come down and do shows. I think I met you at the Christmas show, but you also did a summer show as well. Is that right?
Yep. So depending upon the year, we would do 3 shows a season or 2 shows at the Powel Crosley Estate, which is a mansion that they use as a public event space, which is really amazing in Sarasota. And yes, and I may have formed a mild crush on our friend Will here because he is such a kind and welcoming improviser. So if you get a chance, please work with this man. He is wonderful.
And I feel the same. I feel likewise about you. Like, as you know, and I think as you know personally, when I see job opportunities come up for like running an improv theater, you are one of the first people I think of because your philosophy, your take on improvisation, your kindness and generosity, I think just jives so well with mine that you're one of the first people I think of. And I think
we build an empire.
Yeah. Now, right now, what do you do performance-wise, improv-wise?
So I will say that I have been super, super lucky. My friends and colleagues and performance mates have been very quick on the, okay, great, we have to adapt and we have to figure out what the performance world is going to hold so that we can all be together safely. So I will say mad stupid props to Kurt Kievert and Cincinnati ComedySportz. I was his co-manager, and he is bee's knees. We are doing Monday night shows every Monday, and it's all on Zoom, and it's wonderful. Go to the CSE Cincinnati Facebook page. It's amazing. And then my super, super talented performance partner, Allison Rampa, and we started At Home with the Dames, and we do Sketchy Dames. And so it's part sketch, part improv. We do a pre-recorded musical segment. And every episode, and right now we've had 4, but we have filmed like, I think 12 of them at this point. So we release them every other Sunday.
Okay.
And we invite 2 fellow improvisers to come to dinner with the Dames, and they get to play short form improv games with us for a segment. Yeah, so it's a gas, and it's so dumb, and it's so great. So yeah.
That's like my favorite kind of improv. I think I like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I really dig my highbrow fancy improv, but I love the dumb stuff. Sometimes the dumb stuff just satisfies me in a really fun way.
It really is. And that's the thing. I am the same. I'm like, I love all improv. I love any sort of whimsy and light and community that we can create. Yeah. But like, sometimes you're like, I'm genuinely laughing. I don't care if this is not for anyone else.
Yeah. Yep. Now, one thing I enjoyed about watching you perform was your commitment to characters. Like, I think you like fully embody your character in a way that, I mean, just like a civilian audience member is in awe of it, but like a fellow improviser is also in awe. And I remember just being not only enjoying you as an audience member, but as an improviser, just looking at the work that you were doing. And not only in awe, but envious. I was just like, that is some good like commitment to your work. And that's why I'm so excited about the topic that was randomly chosen for you. And so you got, and I just want to make sure I say it correctly, the topic for you is physicality and building a character. So building a character out of physical choices. And so now these topics all match up with different levels of my curriculum. And so this is one week that we focus on. This specific week, we talk about just making a physical choice and then heightening that, like letting your body compensate for that choice, letting your voice support that choice, and then eventually out comes a character. But then we also talk about like modeling off of somebody else, like you seeing somebody and being like, I want to copy what that animal is or what that person is, and just see what the heck happens with my body. And so I want to open it up to you now, like, because you are such a, I mean, you're a full body character when you perform. Any tips, any tips, thoughts, ideas, physicality and improvisation?
Oh my gosh. So I've got 3 hours to talk about this?
Yes.
Right. Yes. Oh, so I guess the arc of my TED Talk, thank you for coming, is like you are existing in improv performance. You exist to be seen, not only by the audience, but by your fellow improvisers. And the only way that you can be seen, because we don't have props, we don't have scenery, we don't have costumes, we don't have any of that, is your physicality. So that is literally the one juicy theatrical nugget that is at your disposal.
Yeah.
And it's that whole, if there is, like, we always talk about these improv rules, like yes and, don't get in your head, no questions, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
If there is one absolute that I would tell you, if you want to perform improvisation, go take an acting class.
Oh, yes. I want to hear more about, okay, so I'm glad you said that, because, all right, so let me unpack that one statement a little bit, because, so in level 1 of our program, I mean, it's all really about like sort of demystifying the scene, like people just sort of getting used to being on stage, getting used to people looking at you, right? For some of our folks, it's the first time they're ever doing that. So I'm like, and I even actually, I do a lot of scenes in chairs, because I'm just like, don't even worry about your body for now. Like, just sit down and talk and get used to people looking at you and laughing and being interested in what you're saying. But then, yes, so this class, Physicality and Building a Character, is week 2 of my level 2. And one of the things I tell my actors is that, my students, I should say, is that, okay, we're at a point now where you've been talking a lot for the last few weeks. Now I want your body to start to talk without you saying words. Like, instead of saying, I'm sad or I'm angry at you, I want you to show me what it is. And what you just said, like, take an acting class. I think a lot of improvisers, there's a lot of really damn good improvisers that I think would be even more amazing if they took an acting class. I absolutely agree.
And it's interesting because I came to improvisation through acting. My degree is in musical theater. I went to a liberal arts college we were focused on musical theater and performance. And then I was like, I feel weird because I'm not an ingenue and I'm not getting the roles of like, oh, like whimsical and two-dimensional heroine. I was always like, okay, you're going to be like the kind of slutty one, or, oh, okay, you're going to be the funny one. Like those were, and I was like, there's this thing and I don't have a name for it. And it wasn't until I actually graduated from college that somebody was like, hey, have you ever considered improv? And I was like, I don't know what that is. And like I had seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I was like, oh, okay, that's really funny. And I was like, that's a job? That? And it is like, when you're talking about physicality and character, it's I feel like so much of improv starts out as, what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? And then along comes the trail, and all of a sudden you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, and it matters. And if you think about the best way that, because we always, I think one of the hardest things in improvisation is that we talk in these theoreticals, because you can talk until you're blue in the face in a rehearsal about, well, this is what I would have done 45 minutes ago in your long form scene. And you're like, great, we're never going to do that scene again because it's fucking improv. So it's like in rehearsal, there are these beautiful moments where you can go, stop. let's go back. Let us dissect this in a very scientific and repetitive way that is not improvisational, so that you understand what this skill is.
Yeah.
And taking that beautiful breath of going, we're not practicing how to improvise. We're practicing the skills needed to improvise.
Right.
It's really, really important. And so like cultivating that earth specifically is watching the movies and the television shows that you really like, and starting from that place of, great, I'm going to mimic. I'm not going to copy. I'm not going to recite the lines that they said, but I'm going to take Kramer from Seinfeld, and I'm going to embody him at the grocery store. How would that character behave at the grocery store? And that's a very tangible practice that you can use. You can get, great, I know what this character is. I'm not going to use his tagline. I'm not going to copy what he's doing. I'm going to take that kind of choice that he would make and create it for the grocery store. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Creating that. So creating those characters, because also understanding you have to practice getting comfortable with you, because every character is an extension of yourself. So getting comfortable with the villain version of Eileen, and the ingenue version of Eileen, and the masculine bravado of Eileen. It comes still from this real person, but then it's the heightened, I am meant to be seen character that becomes the performance. Because, you know, it's like, great, understand what your slice of life, what your brand is, and then make it seen for the audience.
Oh, that is great. Oh, Eileen, that is so rich. Thank you. That's so cool. This idea of mimicking, I love. You know, it's funny. I just taught this week of my curriculum yesterday, and now, if you don't mind, I want to share with them this video. That's why I started to record it, and it's also going to be on Facebook. So I want them to see it, because you're hitting on a lot of the things. You're articulating it so much better, like these ideas that I want to convey to them. Because I do talk a lot about, you know, well, when I go into this level, I talk about, you know, there's our threshold of physicality, like this comfort zone that we operate in on a daily basis, where these motions that we do on a daily basis, we know, you know, certain ways that the way that we walk, the way that we stretch, whatever. And then the first thing I like to do in this level is just have them use their body in different ways. And then, you know, raise your, like, for example, one thing I do is, you know, I'm like, okay, I want you all to turn your body into the shape of a capital B. Right? And then I make them sort of think about it, and then they start to do something like this. And then I'm like, okay, great, awesome. Like, you know, when was the last time you made that shape? Who knows, right? And then I'm like, okay, now that you have that shape, now what is this character? Make this the default, like, way that a character operates, right? So then now you're like, you know, then you start doing that, then you put a voice to it, etc. So that's like one strategy I take. But then the other one is one that you just talked about, this idea of mimicking, which I love, sort of zeroing in on a character and actor that you like, and then trying to recreate that in some way. And then in week 3, so next week, I start to add in this idea, and you just hit on it. I start to add the idea of archetypes. So it's like, villain will, ingenue will, you know, loner will, right? Like looking at these different shades of you to see what comes out.
Well, and I will say that because there are so many improvisers that I've met that are wonderful improvisers that maybe didn't come from an acting background, but the shorthand and the vocabulary that you gain from taking an acting class is that that understanding of how to be that villain and not play at being a villain.
Ooh.
And it's that it's like this intangible electricity of the character that it's very hard to explain, but you know it as soon as you feel it. And it's almost the best way that I've kind of figured out how to explain it to my students is, you know, that moment when you see two people in an improv scene and they're doing something and you're really excited about it. And then one of them picks the audience over their partner. It's like they just maybe turn and look at the audience, or they reference something that reminds you that they're an improviser first. And it's like this betrayal. It's this little betrayal where you're like, oh, you're tricking me. Damn it. And I hate that, because it's like, no, you just don't, you defeated the whole purpose of this world that you created, this beautiful, luscious moment. And I feel like acting gave me that ability to hold on, even when I really wanted to be like, you laughed at me. Like, don't do it. Don't side with them. Commit to this moment. Commit to this delicious, intangible thing that you have with your partner.
Yeah.
And it's just that, it's that breath of like, I could choose you. I could choose the audience. I could choose to indulge in this selfishness, or I could choose us.
Yeah.
And I 100% want to choose us, because it'll be that much more valuable to the audience, because they're like, you created this beautiful thing that I believed.
Yeah. I want to make sure that you repeat what you said. You said it. It sounds so great. So you said play the character or be the character.
Yeah.
Right?
So you want to be the character.
Be the character.
You don't want to play at being the character.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Exist as the villain. Don't have this. It's the difference between that separation of I'm Eileen and I'm playing a villain, or I'm Eileen the villain.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And that's such a greater three-dimensional character, because villains don't think they're bad, but Eileen playing a villain is like, I know I'm a shit.
Yeah. Oh right.
No?
Yeah.
And it's that, and I think especially when we're concerned because we're like, we didn't get the reaction from the audience that we were hoping for, or we maybe are playing with a partner that we don't entirely trust. I think improvisers get into that. I need the instant gratification that I'm doing well.
Yeah. And that's tough, right? Trying to get that quick hit from the audience and selling out the scene, or selling out your scene partner. How aware are you of the audience? Like, are you? I mean, so yeah. I mean, there's, because I know. I'll also say, like, I know a handful of actors a handful of improvisers, I should say, who will be like, F the audience, screw them, right? And like literally, like, at least I think that's what they tell themselves, because I don't think they actually believe that. Like, I know what they're saying. But I don't think they actually mean like screw the audience. I do, but I'm sure they're aware of them, right? And I'll quickly say, like, for me, and this is I don't know if you know that, like, I was a physics major in college.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was a physics major in college. So this idea of, like, I remember one thing that stuck with me is that there are gravitational forces that exist in the universe that are constantly pulling at you, even if you can't see them. So even like, there's like the center of the galaxy of the Milky Way is tugging at us, even though 100%. we can't see it. And for me, that's my relationship with the audience. I'm like, I know they're there. They're tugging at me. They're giving me cues. They're telling me, but I'm not going to sell out my scene or my scene partner. But I recognize that there's a force happening.
Oh, for sure. So I'm going to take it back like 2 steps and then get to this. So way back in the day, and I cannot tell you the year because I drank a lot in college. But way back in the day, there was a Steve Irwin like workshop that I could take, and I took it, and it was like the science of physical comedy. And he literally broke down like, okay, so if you start on your left foot, get to the edge of the stage and turn back, the audience didn't laugh. But if you start on your right foot, walk to the edge of the stage and turn back, they do laugh. So like understanding physical space and how you relate to the audience, because it was also the idea of universally we understand what is sad. death is sad, loss is sad, painful things are sad. But comedy is subjective to the person. So like some people, dick and fart jokes will get them every time. Some people are like, puns are my jam. And, you know, but right? So like in an audience, you could have the wide range of gamut. So, and there are some people, depending upon their proclivity, that are like, prove to me that I should laugh at you. And so finding that scientific and joyful algorithm of what makes people laugh is very interesting to me. And for me personally, anything that comes from a joyful shared experience is laughable, something super relatable. I don't want to be tricked. I don't want to be duped into, oh, I am the joke. I'm the thing you're making. Okay. Like, right? So like, I love that shared experience of I'm along for the ride. And I feel like that is especially true personally for me in improvisation, because it's already the contract that you've written for the audience is you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. So like tricking them is like a double whammy. You didn't know and we tricked you. Like,
right.
Like, so getting to a place of, hey, you're along for the journey, but you don't decide the journey is really important, because the second that you give to them the power of you're in charge of what's funny, then they become this person that's like, fine, you're going to tell puns, you're going to tell dick jokes, I'm going to judge what kind you have. But if they are, if it's a situation where I am committed to my partner, we don't know what's happening, you don't know what's happening, but we're honoring this agreement and we're honoring every single promise we have made to you, you get that satisfying laughter of recognition. It is like, oh, it's so great, because it's like, 25 minutes maybe into a long form, you're like, hey, do you remember when all you wanted was a hat? And you're like, oh, you got the hat.
I love that. Yeah, I love the satisfying laughter of recognition. I do. I often talk about the like types of laughter. In some of my classes, I'll talk about the and I agree. There's two types of laughter. There's more than that, but the two types of laughter I talk about a lot in improv. One is that laughter of recognition, and that like they are with you. They are, and like aspects of what's happening on scene resonate with them. And they're just like, oh yeah, I know I haven't been in that situation, but I know that feeling, right? Yes. And they're right there with you, and it's so deep.
I had a Facebook post it might have been a week ago now, but I was talking about that one long chin hair that you don't notice until it's gotten a little long, and then you feel it, and you're like, oh my god, I have to get it. And like so many people were like commenting and talking about it, and I was like, that's the thing. It's like the beautiful realism. Yeah. And I heightened it so that people could see it and see it for the ridiculousness that we all do. But we all do. It was like the whole comment was, I'm too lazy to go to the bathroom. So I turned on a private Zoom meeting to find that chin hair to pluck it because I didn't want to walk all the way to the bathroom. Guarantee you, at least 3 people were like, oh, I can use Zoom to get that chin hair? Great. But that's real, that's relatable. And like, even if they themselves have never necessarily, like you said, been in that experience, they're like, oh, there's a kinship there. You're very real.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other type of laughter I hit on is the laughter that is based out of, so now I'm like getting a little physiological, because it goes to that surprise, right? It goes, which is kind of like based in fear almost, because you the physiology of types of laughter, where back in caveman times, before there were jokes and bits and whatever, like in order to scare a predator away, right? They would make cavemen would make a huge sound, right? And then that eventually can be traced back to laughter. Like I am not all types of, but like a big like a those loud laughs, like ah, like I am surprised at what just happened, right? And so and there are and that's different for me. I could tell in an audience, I could hear those two types of laughter. I could hear the oh yeah, this is good because this is me, right? But then there's also the like that shocking laughter of like, wow, you just surprised the heck out of me.
But I would even attest that the surprise laughter is a surprise because they're like, oh my god, of course that's where that was gonna go. Of course, that's such a, and I think. So I use this example a lot in my classes. And am I allowed to curse on this? I guess that's a really good question to ask. Oh, great. Yes. I always tend to go to, please don't immediately go to fucking spiders in space.
Yes.
Which means like, don't start the scene batshit crazy. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
Like if we get to space, then fine. But we don't have to start there because you can't immediately ostracize your audience. And like you were saying, like people are like, oh, screw the audience. I don't care about them.
Yeah.
Like you have to care about them because their energy is going to feed. It shouldn't change, but it should feed what you're doing. Oh, great. You guys are enjoying this journey. Great. We're going to continue on.
Yeah.
I don't feel this connectedness with the audience. Maybe this isn't the thing that our scene's going to be about. Let's keep moving. Like, you have to have that outsider knowledge. And that's why I hate it when people say, don't be in your head. Because I'm like, it's not about, like, don't write the scene, but understand how many places the scene can go.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can understand how many places the scene can go is if you understand journeys. You understand hero journey, you understand villain journey, you understand how a story arc goes.
Oh. Woo.
That's how you have to look at it. And sometimes you walk into a scene and you're like, I am definitely the hero. And then the scene starts and you're like, nope, I am the villain. I am the villain in this scene.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm going to lean into villain arc. So what does that mean? And if you haven't watched shows, if you haven't read plays, if you haven't read stories, then you don't understand that arc. And so you have to be able to pull from all of these improv pouches to go, okay, what story are we in? Yeah. Great, which journey? And it's okay to be like, hey, I thought we were doing a hero's journey, but now it's actually a redemption story for the villain.
Yeah.
But how does that affect us? And how does that logically go? Because you can have a ridiculous character, but the audience needs to be able to follow their journey. And if you're like, hey, great, we started in a cafeteria and now we're fucking spiders in space. How did we get there?
I love, so your spiders in space is my penguins with machine guns.
Yes.
That's mine. That's my, like, so my example is like, penguins. I'm like, why? And that's a real life example. That happened in a scene.
Mine too.
20 years ago, where it's like, it was a great father-son scene. And then an improviser panicked because they were like, what is happening here? And they brought in a school bus with penguins with machine guns into what was a pretty like rooted and honest scene. And and then the scene got really crazy. What's that?
I would like to tell you that my sex with spiders in space, I don't know if I've ever actually shared this, but my...
wait, I didn't know there was a sex part with it. There's sex with spiders in space.
Yes, fucking spiders in space, yeah.
So it's a fucking that one. I thought it was fucking spiders.
Fucking spiders in space. So it was an actual scene that I was a part of, and I was the planet Uranus. So you can imagine how exciting that scene was for Eileen. Yes. So I can't wait for us to co-write our improv book.
Oh, this is great.
With machine guns. Bestseller on Amazon already.
Now I do want to give an example of earning the crazy, and I'm going to put that in
Yes.
quotes, crazy. I'll never forget another scene. This was earlier in my improv career, maybe not 20 years ago, but maybe like 15 years ago. A very honest scene of like two people on a date, and they were just and they were talking about how they were sad that this was going to be their last dinner together because they really loved one another, and they were like and they were really really sad, and that this was it, and not only that this was it, but that they were going to die. Like that's what came out in the scene. It was so touching. And then the waiter comes out. The waiter comes out with a second serving of food. But then the waiter brings a second serving of food and then puts the food down, but then can't move. So the waiter's like, oh, I guess we're all gonna die together.
Aww.
And then what they end up revealing, and this is them earning the crazy, because if they started here, it would have never made sense.
Never made any sense.
But they got here, and what we learned is that they were three houseflies eating a piece of food on a glue trap, and I was just it killed, but they earned that. It was so
and
good.
As soon as people found out, I bet they guffawed in that surprise because, oh my God, of course he's stuck. Of course he's stuck. That's so great.
And of course they're all gonna die. Like everything, of course, everything made sense, but it was totally earned. And I talk about that scene. I'm like, that scene would not have happened. The beauty of that scene would not have happened if that waiter came in with a school bus with penguins and machine guns. Yeah.
That makes my heart so happy because one of the most satisfying scenes that I ever had at my training at Second City, we started as raccoons. Mm-hmm. And the story, so it was established that we were raccoons and we were talking about starting a family. And so we just wandered around the stage and it was like, I'm not ready to be a dad. And it was such a ridiculous premise start, but a really luscious scene about a true life problem.
Yeah.
Trash pandas might have. I will say every time I am in Sarasota, because where I stay, the dumpster is very close to us. Every time I'm like, do you have a family?
We do have a family of raccoons that lives in our backyard in one of the trees. And during the winter, when we put our fire pit, you'll sometimes see them. They'll come out on the branch. I mean, the branch is like 25 feet above the fire pit. But they'll come out, the whole family will come out so that the smoke will just kind of warm them up. And you'll just look up and, I mean, they're super cute.
And you wonder, was it a planned family or are you stuck in a loveless marriage? Now you're going to wonder.
Now, let me, I want to talk about, we're down to our last 15 minutes or so, but I want to talk about physicality a bit more with you. And what comes... So, if you make a bold physical choice, so I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what comes first for you, like the voice of the character or the physicality into the voice, or is it created at the same time? Or I don't know if you have a tip, a strategy, an exercise, or something, the anecdote, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I will say that I 100% pick one thing because my brain is like a goldfish, so I can only hold on to one thing at once. So I either pick a strong emotional choice without knowing what the scene is. I pick a strong emotion to start the scene and come in with. I pick a strong physical option, like I will lead with some part of my body. Or I do think of like an occupation or a character that I like, or some sort of full-bodied character thing that I come in with. But I never walk into a scene. I never just walk in holding a cup. I feel like that is like a standard improv.
That is a standard, guilty, right?
I'm gonna come in with a cup. And sometimes I come in, like you said, with a morphine. So like, wah, or
yeah.
And just a nonsense word that that starts it off, because if you hold on to one thing, then it really does give your partner an opportunity to breathe, taking that one gasp of breath to go, I'm going to make a decision. And I feel like that is, if there's one thing that you can absolutely put into your head, make one declarative decision at the top. Name them. Tell us what's going on. And the tell us what's going on is, it's like the end of a sentence. Like you were in the middle of something back here, and it's like, and that's why we lost the cattle. Like, I don't care what it is. Finish the sentence as you're walking on stage, because that gets you out of like, hi, Dale. Hi, Roger. Coffee.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't want to see another scene at the office. Like, I would rather find out that they were at the office, but they're a bunch of giraffes. Like,
oh, but you're so right. I never really thought about that, but you're right. Like, there are default, I mean, I know I have them. I have like default objects I go to, but you're right. If you come in with that default object, it kind of just funnels you into a very specific place or type of scene. Yeah, that's really good. Now, I want to also say that one thing that I notice about your performance, and I'm noticing it now on Zoom as well, and I don't know if you want to share anything about this, is you are super expressive. Like this, you communicate so much with just your face, and like your eyes are like, you communicate a lot. Even like your just looking at your eyes, like you communicate so much right here. and I remember when I was a young improviser, I took a class in New York, and they did this what was the name? I can't even remember what the name of the exercise was, but you basically had to pass your expression on to your partner. So for example, if I was just looking straight ahead, my partner, say you were my partner, you would just mirror my face, and just my face, not my body, right? So if I'm like this, you would be exactly, and then I would have then look at you. I would look to my left, and then you would look straight to the center of the circle with this, and you would have to keep the same expression, but then morph it into something else, right? Yes, exactly. And then your partner on that side, on the left side of you, is doing the same thing. And one thing I'll never forget when I did that is that they would say, "Keep your eyes open. Open your eyes." So even if you're like upset, like they were like, "Keep your eyes open." Right. And I just remember how much information was being communicated that way. And anyways, just talking to you, like, I'm like, just how expressive you are with your face is great. And it's a big part. It's a big part of what we do, I think.
It's so huge, because people talk about, it's that cliched phrase of like, the eyes are the window to the soul. Like, especially now that you're wearing masks. I don't know if you have found this to be true, but it's very hard for me to hear people, because I did not realize before how often I looked at their entire face, especially their mouth when they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the amount of information that is just here is very interesting, especially when using Zoom as a theatrical medium, because I'm like, that's all I have now. That's it, because I've got this rectangle of sphere, and that's what I can use. And I will say that, pro tip for anyone who wants to perform improvisational theater, like, look at yourself, see what you're doing, like, look in the mirror and honestly take stock of, do I look happy when I feel happy? Because you are supposed to be seen in theater. And so often, especially in real life, we're like, I'm going to be as quiet as I can be, not to disrupt and not to be seen. But in theater and in improvisation, you do it to be seen. So like, what is your face when you're happy? Do you actually look happy? So often women especially get the resting bitch face, and it's like, I'm not mad. I'm just at rest, like just not doing anything.
Yeah.
So recognizing and then really feeling, getting that muscle memory of this is what I look like when I'm happy. This is what I look like when I'm ecstatic. This is, and not having to like think of it first. It's kind of like learning, body language is learning a language.
Yeah.
So like understanding just by rote memorization, like this is what I look like when I'm happy. This is what I look like when I'm performance happy. There is a difference.
That's amazing. Like, I feel like there should be more classes just on that body language.
I teach one.
Oh, yes, good. We're gonna have to plug it. You'll have to send me the links, and I'll add it to your links on Facebook. Do you teach over Zoom?
I do.
Because one thing I've been noticing, and not, I mean, I'm so looking forward to being back in a real classroom with folks. However, there's one little gift is that you get to see yourself. You get like this immediate feedback of like, wow, that's what I look like doing this.
If
and
I could give like
adjust.
one like improv, like, oh my God, things I never considered. Like when I am in acting classes and especially dance classes, there is a mirror in the rehearsal room. And like there is a benefit, like have a curtain so you can close it when you don't need to use it. But there is such a benefit to being like, okay, great. Now go to the mirror and look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, let's really dissect what this is, because you think you're conveying this, and this is what it's actually looking like. You know, and that's an important thing. And the specificity, it's not about being mean in note taking and rehearsal and stuff, but it is about that specificity. Because how many times have we taken improv workshops and classes and you go for 45 minutes and you're like, I don't know why we're doing this warm up or why we're doing this exercise. And then later they like, there's the overarching, like, so what felt weird? It's like all of it. 100% of the things felt awkward. I have no idea what I'm doing with my body. It's like, that's not helpful. But if you can like gauge like contrast, one of the things we were talking about before, I'm a little drunk, guys, so I'm sorry. But a little before, we were talking about like if you can do a contrast. So like if you can say, hey, say your name. Great. Now say your name in a sarcastic way. Then you can gauge like, great. So you did sarcastic at like a 2. Now do it at a 12. Let me see what that sarcastic is. And it's amazing how people's gauges are suggestive. Like they think that they're going a million miles and you're like, you are a beautiful, meek mouse. And your 12 is hitting a 3. But like now, you know, what feels like a 25 to you, that's where I need you at performance. Yeah.
I love that. And that goes back to like, when I talk about it by classes, like there's a comfort zone, a threshold. And, you know, my improvisers, when they first come into me, they think that this border right here is a 10. And it's my goal to like basically keep redefining the 10, right? So that they know. And that goes on everything: emotion, physicality, voice, using your voice, etc.
All of the things. And just being able to like also see people who are excelling, like hands down, Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett are my spirit animals. Like, because it's relatable humor that I'm like, great, you're mad about something.
Yeah.
you're feeling awkward. Like these are the things that I'm like, oh, great. And if you commit to it and you don't bail on that moment, then you get that laughter of recognition, because the audience is like, I know that feeling. I feel it on the inside. I don't show it like that. I know it. I feel it in my soul.
Oh, Eileen, this was a great talk. I'm loving these because I am learning so much from my peers. And that's a big part of what I want to do with this. And this was very enlightening. It was great to hear you talk about it. I'm glad that this is, and I really don't plan it. I randomize it, and this is one that came out, and I was so excited that this is the one that came out for you, because I knew you were going to have a lot to say, and you did. And thank you
you
so
for coming
much.
to my Will Talk, everyone.
And yeah, this was a lot of fun. And Eileen, if you send me your links and all that, I'll make sure to put it on our on the Facebook post with for this interview. So please send that along, and we'll make sure to do that. All right, Eileen Earnest, friend, colleague, thank you so much. Peer, teacher, everything. So thank you so much, Eileen. You could stay on for a little bit. I'm just going to sign us off. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been another improv interview. We'll be publicizing the next one for next week soon. Thank you and good night. Oh, I also want to say thank you to Lonzo Grisson from Bradenton, Florida, who has given us the music for tonight, the opening and closing. Thank you, Lonzo. All right. Thank you, Eileen. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.